I'm here with Jason Hancock, who's Vice President and General Manager of Europe for eNett's International. One of the things that I really wanted to talk to Jason about, and I think it's a really important issue for the industry as a whole, is fraud. And I know that you've recently commissioned Edgar Dunn and Company, I believe it was, a very detailed report into fraud in the travel industry. So just start by explaining why you felt there needed to be this piece of research done into fraud in travel.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Martin. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you in tnoooz. Absolutely. So fraud has always been considered a huge issue in the payments industry, but in particular in the travel industry. So given that, we decided to commission this piece of research for the benefit of our customers and also the industry as a whole. As you say, we engaged Edgar Dunn, a specialist payment consultancy, to help with that research piece, and it's brought out some quite interesting findings.
Such as?
Yeah. So just as an indication of the scale of fraud and how much it is on travel intermediaries, so travel agencies' mind. Outcome of the survey was that 57% of travel intermediaries in the survey said that fraud on incoming payments was a top issue for them. And equally, in thinking about the whole payment value chain, even greater number, actually 60% of travel intermediaries felt that fraud was a top issue in making payments to their suppliers, so the B2B payment side, which, as you know, is where eNett's
that's what I found quite interesting about the research, was that we have a lot of stuff about sort of B2C fraud with people, card not present, people using a credit card wasn't theirs, exactly. loyalty fraud. So that sort of consumer-facing fraud, I think, have been quite well covered. But but in terms of the B2B, in terms of the travel payment chain, the payment from the travel intermediary to the supplier, I mean, where's the fraud happening there? How is that being sort of corrupted by the criminal element?
So it's very similar to on the B2C side. Interception of card payments, suppliers setting up fake hotels, mass creation of card numbers and floating them into the industry, which happens equally in the B2B chain as it does in the consumer chain. So actually, and just again an indication of the scale of the problem for the travel industry, that the research showed that $21 billion was the amount of cost impact of fraud on the travel industry per year.
$21 billion.
$21 billion per year. And interestingly, only $6 billion of that was associated to the direct costs, so the actual losses incurred due to that fraud. Looking into that a bit deeper, it's a bit like the tip of an iceberg. There's an even greater set of costs below the surface in indirect costs. So that's things like lost revenue, things like the operational cost of management of that fraud. So quite astoundingly, Edgar Dunn found that between 20 and 30% of transactions where a payment was initiated were being manually checked to catch this fraud. So you can just imagine with a business operating at scale, how challenging that is and how costly that is for companies. And also in terms of indirect costs, any fines associated with not having the correct controls in place and reputational damage for the customer itself. So a huge issue.
Yeah. So is the answer for travel companies, again, trying to keep it on the sort of the B2B fraud side? Is it a thing about sort of, is it can technology help this by sort of detecting fraudulent patterns from suppliers, or is it a question of training your staff not to respond to phishing emails? So is technology the answer, or is it more of a sort of cultural issue within the travel industry to address this?
And I'd encourage people to look at the white paper, because in that we highlight 12 benefits of best practice to mitigate the fraud, and that's both on the consumer to business fraud, so the accepting payment, and the B2B payments, the payout side. And it is things like ensuring that you onboard your supplier, you know who your supplier is. Just think about some of the global online travel businesses that have portfolios of suppliers across the world, so hundreds and hundreds of thousands of properties, individual guest rooms when we're talking about the Airbnb, HomeAway, booking at home models. The amount of fraud that's inherent in that B2B transaction is absolutely huge, and to your point, one way you can look to mitigate that is not only understanding who your supplier is through onboarding, but through your choice of payment method to that supplier. And that's as you know, where eNett play significantly in through our virtual card solution. And virtual cards generally now, thankfully, much more well used and more well known in travel, and really help travel agencies gain control around the payments that they're making versus more traditional payment methods. And for the benefit of everyone watching, virtual cards very simply a 16-digit MasterCard number that's used for a single transaction. Inherent in that model is the fact that it's one-time use only, so once it's been used for a specific transaction, you throw it away and there's no risk of fraud on that.
Okay, so I mean, other than this fraud project that you've done, I mean, what else is happening at eNett that we need to know about?
Sure, so the business is growing fantastically. We're very fortunate to be growing with our customers. Another thing we didn't talk about is when you implement tools such as virtual cards to mitigate things like fraud and drive cost efficiencies, that enables businesses to scale. So we're very fortunate in that by delivering our services to customers, we're actually helping them grow and benefiting from that. So the future for us is continue to evolve our platform. At the very heart of our core values and our vision, our mission, is to really drive out the complexity in B2B payments, and we'll continue to evolve our current platform but invest in new technologies to do that as well.
Okay, well that's a nice way to round off. So Jason Hancock, Vice President General Manager Europe for eNett International, another one of the sponsors of tnoozLIVE at ITB. Martin Cowan, back shortly.
So the whole idea is that we work closely with our customers to develop new payment solutions that are fast, easy and safe. One of the key challenges for us as a team is to continue to redefine payments, not just B2B payables, but how our customers receive their funds. We've got to help our customers help theirs, which ultimately helps us. Think about the last 5 years, on average we've grown 68% in our revenue. The rate of growth, the number of countries we're in, how fast we've been able to do that and maintain it, you know, that's probably been the best part of the story.
eNett is a travel payment specialist.
This is eNett.
Fast and effective service.
We make sure our customers' transactions are safe. Of course they have to be.
We certainly like to think we're easy to deal with, and we certainly do have a bit of fun along the way.
This is eNett.
Vans, virtual account numbers.
It's a 16-digit uniquely generated MasterCard number that we use to power payments.
So vans are safe because a unique number is used for each booking transaction, and actually by integrating with agency workflows, they make payment processes quicker and more efficient.
They can spend less time managing their payments.
Then they can spend more time on growing their business and doing what they know best.
This is eNett.